He won Best of F, and now he's here for the first feature Friday. You are all here. I'm super excited. Let's give it up. Let's get it up. For Pete Stegemeyer.
All right, so I'm here with Pete. So Pete, why don't you start? Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, my name is Pete Stegemeyer. I am 35. I grew up in Wisconsin. I live in New York City now, and I served with you in Afghanistan on our first deployment in 2008, 2009. You were my platoon leader. I was your RTO, and then kind of went around from there. And now I work in the city as a cybersecurity specialist, but also as a stand-up comic.
I actually suffer from extreme short-term memory loss as a result of my PTSD. Like, I got a couple concussions right after 9/11. Wow. So now I hear never forget. And I'm like, that must be nice.
Growing up, I guess, like, what were you like in high school, and was there anything that started you down the path of joining the military?
I think there were a few things. Like, I was always, I would say I was like well liked but not popular in high school. So I kind of I was always like playing around with things, but I didn't really have like a direction. Like, at one point, like, I wanted to go to college, but I picked like a terrible school in Colorado just because I was planning on like skipping school to go snowboarding. So like, I didn't really have a direction. And then actually the second day of my senior year of high school was September 11th. And so that kind of was like, okay, well, this is something that I feel like I should do.
Yeah.
And so from there, I kind of like went down to the recruiters, talked to them, took the ASVAB and things like that. And then ended up actually having a nose surgery. So I had to wait 4 years because it was like a sinus thing before I was medically cleared. But then after that, I joined the military.
What'd you do in the meantime?
In the interim, I worked a few jobs. So I worked at a factory for a little bit, and then because like my parents like they were supportive, but like based on like my wanting to like just blow off and go to a party school, they weren't super eager to like sign student loan paperwork.
Yeah.
So I worked for a while. I moved to Milwaukee. I became a cable guy for a little bit, and then when I was like medically able to, I joined the Army.
I guess talk a little bit about your first deployment.
Okay. So first deployment, we were in RC South, and it was. I remember like it being really weird because I wasn't sure like what to expect like in terms of anything, and then I remember it getting weirder because we went like from Manas Air Force Base in Kyrgyzstan, and we were like getting ready to get on the plane into Kandahar. And all of a sudden there were like 3 like really famous comics, like Dave Attell, Artie Lang, and Nick DiPaolo were like flying in with us. And I just remember being like, this is really weird that that it's just like us, like it was our company, and then like these 3 guys.
Yeah.
But
so you now have met Dave Attell.
Yes.
You've chatted with him. Did you like go up and chat with him at all this time?
I was too nervous to.
Okay.
Like I watched the shows they did like for the USO, but I was like too starstruck to really do anything.
Did you ever tell him that?
I did.
Okay.
Actually, I do a show every November to like help raise funds for like veteran suicide and stuff like that. And Dave has been like really gracious about like doing the show twice now.
Right on.
And so like the first time that I like introduced him on stage, like I actually told the story of how he was like the first guy I saw like going into Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And it was really cool because that was like one of the things that like did later inspire me to like do shows for the troops and things like that. And it was really cool. So it was like nice that like he remembered it as well. It's like, yeah, you should have just like said hi.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's not something you think of.
Yeah.
When you're in that situation. Yeah.
But it was cool. But we got to Kandahar, and then, God, it was probably like a month or so of staging, and then we like started driving out west. Like we were like right on the border, or like right near the border of Helmand Province and Kandahar Province.
So, is it anything else stand out in your mind as far as like summing up the deployment and getting back?
I think that one of the like, I guess the most defining moments, like the more I think about it, like the more I think it was like a life defining moment. And I don't remember if you had joined the platoon or not at this point. But we got a distress call from a radio station in Helmand, and usually Helmand was like the Marines, and that was like kind of the Wild West. But there was like an Afghan radio station that was like going and like sending out like propaganda and like, pro U.S. messaging and stuff like that. Not like a shock jock in the morning radio station. But they were like on top of a mountain, and they're like, the Taliban's here. They're about to kill us all. Like, please come and help. And I remember like gearing up the truck, and everyone's like, oh shit, this is Helmand. So like we like knew that the expectancy for danger was higher.
Yeah.
And then we load up in all the trucks, and this radio station's like on top of this mountain. It's dark now, so we're driving up the side of it, and like we're in like 14-foot wide trucks, and this is maybe a 15-foot wide road.
Yeah.
And we're doing it with night vision or infrared, so like you can't actually see anything. And if the tire like goes up, like it's like steep on both sides, like you're gonna absolutely die. And then I remember like getting to the top of this thing, and like there's like one like little suitable parking lot, but it was like got like 150 meters like below the radio station, like a hill. And I remember like everybody just kind of being like, shit, like this is like an ideal ambush position. And like as we were like getting ready to like drop the hatches and stuff like that, like everybody's like, shaking hands and be like, like the band in Titanic, like, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Whatever happens. And like I remember kind of being like, like there's nothing we could do differently here.
Yeah.
But like if it's your time, it's your time. And that kind of like changed me fundamentally, because I'm like, there's just like kind of like the Picard quote where it's like you can do everything right and still lose.
Yeah.
And that kind of like made me like, I don't want to say like I accepted death, but like I knew it was a possibility, and like it was just like,
yeah.
it was a really weird like defining moment. But yeah, that was like one of those nights that I like think about like pretty regularly.
Yeah.
And just kind of, just like not even necessarily like as a bad thing, but just like there was almost like as you were like getting ready to like drop the ramps, because you had to like drop the ramps like downwards, and that's like the perfect like Normandy like boat scene and like Saving Private Ryan. It's just kind of, there's almost like a peace or like an acceptance, and so I like think about that a lot. But yeah.
I didn't really think about it like that, but yeah, that was pretty wild. Yeah, that's a really interesting way of thinking about it, and especially like, nothing happened, but everyone was ready and sort of expecting it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you told me a couple stories yesterday, just while we were talking before the show. I wanted, like some of like the leadership stories that you shared with me yesterday, the other day.
Yeah, there were a few, like, because it was, I always felt like leadership was a different challenge than I was expecting to, like, because when you like think about like Army leadership, like you expect like, okay, like this is how I lead battle, and
charge the hill,
yeah,
follow me.
Exactly, charge the hill, follow me. Like these are the tactics and things like that. But like the leadership like doesn't stop there, and that was like something that I guess I should have anticipated, but like didn't really think about, because you always like see the guy like, follow me, and like it's always something like that. It's never like the fact that these are like 18-year-old kids that like don't know how to do laundry.
Yeah.
And you have to like teach them how to be adults, and like you have to like almost parent them in a way, and it was interesting. It was definitely like one of those things where like you really you get a grasp of like leadership versus like being, I guess the difference between like being a boss and being a leader. Yeah. And so it was cool, and I like to think that it helped them. It definitely helped me.
Yeah.
All
right, so a lot of times in the military, in the Army, and especially on deployments, it's always nice to have somebody that can like break the tension, and obviously you were one of the people that did that for us.
Like most of the stuff I did in the Army, like I actually started doing stand-up comedy in the Army. Like that is a true story. Like I I started by like telling like stories and jokes around like the garbage fire. That is and is not a metaphor.
When did you start finding yourself, being that person?
That's a good question. Like a lot of it like really did start like our first fob, like we built like this like really like fancy gazebo to like smoke cigars in. So there would be like, and that was like, it was kind of nice because that was like you take off your headgear, so you're not wearing hats, and it was the idea of it was like there's no ranks. We're just like we're guys smoking cigars right now, and that like having that kind of like decompression time, I felt was like really nice, and I felt like it definitely helped with like making the leadership approachable and stuff like that. And so like when we were hanging out there, I would just like start like telling like stories of like fun things that like happened in high school or like pranks that I would pull on, and like everybody like started laughing and just really kind of going from there, and it just kind of like took off.
Yeah, so everybody laughing sort of encouraged you, so you just...
Yeah, and then they'd be like, oh my God, like that's hilarious, like, do you have any more? And so then I would like keep thinking back to like other stuff, and then like also trying to figure out like how to like throw, like sometimes like throw a coat of paint on something to to like make it story worthy. And like I would never like outright lie about stuff, but like you wanted to like make sure that like some of the stuff was like funny.
Yeah, you got to embellish it a little bit.
Yeah,
There's
you have to.
wrong with that.
Yeah. And so that's definitely like how that started. And I remember it being like most of like the squad leaders, team leaders, and platoon sergeants like thinking it was really good, and then like them going and like sometimes like gathering a bunch of people to like sit in like the cots and stuff like that, and just like like basically like story time. And then I remember like we were oddly obsessed with skits too. Like there's
we did a few skits.
Yeah, so like people would be like making fun of like their like platoon sergeant
or platoon leader.
Yeah, or platoon leader sometimes. I did a pretty good First Sergeant Kane impression, so I would like it was just like it was like we didn't really have anything else to do. Like because my other outlet, and I'm not sure if you ever found out about this, but I did run a casino for a little bit called Slippery Pete's.
Oh yeah, I never knew. That's awesome.
It was a good time. Like there were a couple people that I ended up like I won't say names, but I had a squad leader that was into me for like $2,000. And ended up saying basically, it's like, hey, this got carried away. We had our fun, but either like everything is like done and like everybody's square and nobody pays anything, or you're getting an Article 15. And I'm like, is it because you owe me money? But regardless, like Slippery Pete's like was not as fun as comedy. Like and so it was one of those, but it was a good time.
Yeah, right on. So you after Korea you got out, and you went to school, right?
Yes.
Went to school, finished your degree, and now you're working in cybersecurity, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so once you got back, did you maintain your did you maintain like doing comedy while you were still in, like between deployments and?
Yeah, I would start to so I say that I like started comedy on my first deployment with the stories and stuff like that. That's like really the spark. And then once we got to moved the unit to Fort Knox, Louisville, Kentucky was only like a 45-minute drive. So like I started going to like open mics there and like kind of like really started like formally getting into it.
Yeah.
And then like just as things were like, I was starting to like, because usually it was like, you can get on a show if you can bring 5 people, and that wasn't a problem because I'd just like tell people like, hey, like if you guys want to go party in Louisville, I'll be your DD. Yeah. Just like have some of the drinks here. And so like it worked out, like, and I like kind of like built my chops that way. And then like just as things were like starting to, like the clubs were like, okay, you're doing like okay pretty consistently, like you could be on a regular show. Then they're like, hey, we got our deployment orders. Yeah. So then from there, like I kind of like started doing the, like I practiced when I could, like on the second deployment, like I was reading books about it, and like it was definitely like my thing. So I would do like, this time I would do like formal like chow hall shows sometimes, or like semi-formal chow hall shows.
Yeah.
I don't like Call of Duty. I'm just gonna throw that out there. I'm thinking they made it way too realistic. Like, not the combat so much, like I don't have the flashbacks. Like, they keep making new ones, but me and my friends haven't finished the first one yet. Yeah, it's getting expensive. Give us some time, guys.
And so it was a little better, and then we came back from that, and I like one of the things that I like really wanted to do because like we lost a soldier was I wanted to like organize like a comedy night like at a club like, and I wasn't really like, and I just figured that this is a great way to get like people together to like raise money for their family, and that was kind of like they were really nice and let me do a couple minutes on there, and that went really well, and I actually got passed at the club because I had done so well at that show.
Yeah.
And then kind of the same thing, things started like picking up steam, and I was like opening for people professionally, and then the club closed, and like 2 months later I got sent to Korea.
Yeah.
And Korea was kind of the same thing. Like I was about an hour from Seoul, so probably once or twice a month I would like do the train like 2 hours to do like 5 minutes at like an open mic where nobody spoke English.
And I mean, it seems like you're coming up. You headlined your first show last night.
Yeah, it was really exciting.
That was pretty awesome to see. I'm really glad I got to be here for that.
Thank you. I'm really really honored that you like came, and it was like amazing to.
I've been wanting to see one of your shows for a while, so I'm pretty stoked that I flew out here and got to see 30 minutes and not just 5. So
yeah, I would have felt bad if it was 5, but. Yeah, it went really well, and that was like a unique, like that was the first time that the club had done something like that, because they have like an incubator program called like F Comedy, where like you start with like the bringer shows, and then if you do really well at those, you get to do like the best of F, and then like that's kind of like a tournament where like if you win that, then you get to like do the best of F like audition show.
And I'm not aggressive. Like, I wasn't aggressive in the Army. Like, we'd be raiding a compound, and like they'd be like, "Kick down the door, Stegemeyer," and I'd be like, "Let me jiggle the handle. Maybe it's stuck." You don't want that in a war fighter.
Sort of winding down here, why don't you talk a little bit about like the various projects you've got going on and where you're going from here as far as like the whole comedy side of it goes?
Definitely. So I've got a lot of irons in the fire. Like comedy is like always first and foremost. Like I'm trying to do like more shows, or if I can't do more shows, like I'm trying to like do better shows and like really do like quality over quantity and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's been going well. And there's a lot of like big shows in the city that I'm like still trying to do. But like in the meantime, I'm also working on a couple podcasts. So I've got one called I Can Steal That, and that's like that one's kind of my baby, and that's like a true crime podcast, but it's like done in a funny way about like heist cons, scams, and like basically like true crime without the murder. And so that one's been going really well. That one's getting shopped around right now to a couple distributors. And then my friend Patrick and I have actually started working on another podcast called Trauma Plus Time Equals Comedy. And that's like, we're both military vets and we're both comedians, so we kind of figured that it would be kind of fun and like kind of interesting to interview other comics and things like that about like trauma that they've had in their life that they've like later turned into jokes.
Yeah.
And kind of like, does that help the healing process? And what made you think, okay, like this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. How can I use it to make people laugh? And it's just kind of an interesting way to like get to know people a little better and talk about trauma. So
yeah,
we've got a couple episodes of that recorded, and we should be releasing it pretty soon.
Cool. Looking forward to it, man.
Yeah, it should be fun. I'm keeping busy with those, but
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it.
Cool. Yeah, one last thing. Just tell people where they can find you on online.
Okay, definitely. So you can just find me on Facebook at Pete Stegemeyer. You can find me on Instagram at Pete Stegemeyer, and then you can find me on Twitter at It's Peter J, and then also YouTube. You can find links to all of that stuff just at www.petes.nyc.
All right, and I'll put all that stuff in the links below. So Pete, thanks a lot for doing
Yeah,
this.
of course.
with me.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I want to say thank you guys to all of you for like getting me back on this horse, because like I love comedy. I love you guys so much, because comedy for me is really therapeutic. I actually suffer from extreme short-term memory loss. I got a couple concussions and PTSD after 9/11, so I hear like never forget, and I'm like, that must be nice. Guys, thank you so much. Thank you guys.